Yeah. Yeah. Welcome, everybody, to a special Friday edition of CUE SuperShares, powered by CUE. My name is Joe Marquez, Director of Academic Innovation for CUE. And first off, I want to say, how phenomenal was it to see each other at Fall CUE 2 weeks ago? That's right, 2 weeks ago, we ascended upon the Teachers College of San Joaquin and had a phenomenal event. We had two amazing keynotes that just knocked it out of the park, amazing sessions all around, and a fantastic partnership with Teachers College of San Joaquin. We absolutely had a phenomenal time. And if you weren't able to make it, or you were waiting for Spring CUE, this is the Super Share for you, because we want to make sure that we are giving you all the information you need to know to get up to Spring CUE, to attend the event or present at the event. Because with all the amazing information going out about Fall CUE, some of the Spring CUE information may have gotten lost in the cracks, right? So I want to make sure that you are given the most up-to-date information that we have. First off, if you are looking to attend the event, registration is open right now. That is right. If you go to springcue.org, you can register today. Now, why is it important to register today? Well, first off, we have our early bird pricing right now for you. So you're going to be saving a little bit off of the price of the registration. That is going on right now. But also, by registering, you get access to the CUE hotel blocks. And those hotel blocks, we have a contract in place to where it has the lowest price available to anybody for the particular nights that we have for Spring CUE. So you should not be able to find cheaper nights at those individual hotels. Maybe some surrounding hotels that we don't have contracts with, they might be a little bit cheaper. You can do some digging. But the hotels that we've contracted with within the area of Spring CUE, the Palm Springs Convention Center, we have contracted with them to have the lowest price that they are offering for a stay at their hotels during the Spring CUE event. And the only way to unlock access to those blocks is by registering. So register today. Now, another thing I want you to know about, that the call for presenters is open. In fact, the call for presenters has been open for months now. Yes, months now. But if you're just getting the information about it now, just right now, I really want you to know that you have 10 days from today. Today is November 4th, Friday, November 4th. You have 10 days to get your session in. All you have to do is go to cuelearns.org/spring submit. If all uppercase doesn't work, try all lowercase. cuelearns.org/spring submit. And you're going to be submitting your session at least before the November 14th deadline. That gives you 2 weekends, right? This coming weekend and then the following weekend, because November 14th at 11:59 p.m., that's right before the stroke of midnight, the submission process ends. Now, I also want you to know, because some people were in the throes of submitting, but it went over midnight, right? It went over midnight, and they hit submit at like 12:05. That was past the deadline, right? So it's not you're in the portal before midnight. It's you have to have hit the submit button before midnight. But I want to go through how to submit and some tips and tricks on increasing your chances of having your session selected. So again, all you would have to do is go to cuelearns.org/spring submit, and it will take you to our spring submissions page. Now, in this spring submissions page, there's 2 ways to get to your login. In the upper right corner, or if you scroll down, it's right here, log in to submit a session. Now, if this is your first time on Spring 2023's page, you have to create an account. Now, sometimes that confuses people because you were like, well, I created an account when I submitted for spring 2022, or I created an account when I submitted for fall 2022. Every new CUE event, you have to create a new account. That's the way the system we have works. So you have to create an account. So you're going to select create an account, and you're going to come up here and type in your name. There we go. And this is the point of your first point of failure. Type in the email address you would like to be associated with your registration. Okay, so if you're registering with your school account, make sure you're checking your school account emails for any information coming from CUE about your acceptance and so on and so forth. If you're using your personal account, make sure you're putting in your personal account. And also, I've been guilty of this as well. Type in the email address correctly. Don't miss any letters because it will send it to even the incorrect one. So please, please, please make sure that you are putting in the correct email. And then create a password, hit create, and now you are in. Okay, so that is how you create your account. Once you have created your account, you will see up here in the upper right-hand corner, you will see your name up here, right? It'll say welcome and your name. If it does not say welcome and your name, you are not logged in. So make sure it says welcome and your name. Now that you're in, underneath submit a session, it will say welcome and your name one more time. You're going to select submit a session. Now, hold on. Before I get there, you might want to take a look at these documents right here. These are going to be this is the session submission worksheet. If you click on it, it will this is the template, and you want to use this copy. Now, I always recommend, I'm going to say it again, I always recommend downloading this session submission offline worksheet and writing your session in here. Write your session in here. Not only will you have access to it for the future, but also now once you go into the actual submission process, you just copy and paste over. Okay. And if you're wondering how these sessions are scored, we have the session points and rubric PDF here as well. And it explains to you relatively clearly what each section is about and how each section is scored based on the evaluation element. Okay. And so it shows you what a 5 should contain. It shows you what a 4 would contain, shows you what a 1 contains. Make sure that you are looking at this rubric and ensuring you're putting all the information to get those 5s all the way down, getting those 5s all the way down. There is 65 points possible in these session rubrics, which we have members who are session readers. And if you'd like to be a session reader, you can reach out to us so we can see if we have any more spots available. But those session readers are reading 2 to 3 times the same session. So you're not just having one person read and score, you're having 2 to 3 people read and score, and you're going to get the average of those scores. So back again to our submission process. I'm going to hit start submission. It automatically puts in your name and your email. Okay. It's going to ask for your school district, your organization, or your company. So I'm going to type in CUE Inc. right there. It's going to ask if you are a California or Nevada public educator. And in fact, we might actually bring in Oregon going forward, because congratulations, we did just add at Fall CUE a brand new affiliate, Southern Oregon CUE, also known as SoCUE. So congratulations to our newest affiliate in Oregon, SoCUE, Southern Oregon. All right, so perfect. So just select the county that you belong to right in there. And I'm just going to hit no right there for the moment. Verify the name of your district. If I selected, let's say, Fresno County, it brings up all the different districts right here in Fresno County. Okay. But if I select no, I'm not part of a district, because we have a lot of presenters that are not. You just select other right there. Job title. What is your job title? So I'm just going to put Director of Academic Innovation. So Director of AI. Well, that sounds pretty confident. Your Twitter URL or your LinkedIn URL or your Facebook URL. If you want to upload an image of yourself for the moment, I'm just going to put an upload of Bob's Big Boy up here. Must be 1 megabyte or smaller, so that might have an issue. Some of us have some pretty good headshots over here. Let's see if I can just bring in this Emperor Palpatine for the moment. There we go. So there's my image profile. Biography. Lots of stuff. And this is all just for when you get selected, when we create the session description. It's going to have your image and it's going to have a little bio of you underneath. So it's what you would like the public to see when your name and image are attached to your session. Your primary CUE affiliate. We love when our members of our affiliates present. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my CVQ peeps right up in here. Which group do you most closely identify with? How would you describe your gender identity? Your age? What is your enrollment of your district? I'm going to put not applicable. I'm going to put other for the moment. What best describes your work? Government, charter, industry. We should put nonprofit in here. I love when I go over these things because it makes me remind. I put a little note, add in nonprofit, because we have a lot of individuals like myself. I would be nonprofit. So I'm just going to go and put industry for the moment. Will you be presenting with students under 18? I will not be. If you're going to be bringing students from your school to showcase and do things with them, to show what they're doing in the classroom, just make sure you mark yes if you're bringing students that are under the age of 18. I'm going to hit save and continue. And that has started our submission process. You're not done, but it started it. Now, here's the thing that we are doing differently as well. We have heard a lot from our members that they would like to still have sessions recorded. There may be 2 or 3 sessions per session time that they may want to see, but they can in person, they can only see one of them. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to record about 5 sessions every hour. Now, that's not all of them. Right? That's not all of them, but we're trying to record as many as we can live. But some presenters want to focus on their face-to-face audience. They don't really want to have to focus on a virtual audience, but we still would love for you to contribute with our virtual audience. So here's a couple sessions here up here we'd like you to think about. So choice of presentation type. I would be okay to present in person and or virtually. So what that means is this. If you're not selected to present in person, would you still like us to reach out to you and have your session become a virtual session? Would you still like to be a part of the conference and present virtually? I would only like to present in person. I would only like to be considered to be presenting in person. And then I would only like to present virtually. You still want to be part of the CUE conference, but you may not have the means to travel and be there in person. So, but you still want to have a session. We can still have you in there as presenting a virtual session. I'm going to click here. I'm okay to present virtually or in person. Now notice, by selecting different things, you're going to get different options popping up over here. Right? So like here, if you want to present virtually, you have a question. Do you want to pre-record your session and then we can play it during the event? Or do you want to present your virtual session live and have audience join you? Right? Some people just want to record it and now it's a on-demand video for people to watch virtually, or you can have that live. What if I select, I would only like to present in person? Well, here's a couple things that we want to ask you. If you select in person, would you be willing to pre-record, like kind of a test recording of your session and then send us that session? So this is before you travel to Palm Springs. This is before your session. Would you be willing to record like a webinar style version of your session? And what we would do is you would present in person in Palm Springs, and simultaneously we would have your video that you pre-recorded available for our virtual audience to view as well. So you are reaching both audiences at the same time, but you don't have to worry about having that hybrid kind of session. So that's the option there. So I'm going to select yes, I would be willing to pre-record, right? If you are selected to present in person, would you be willing to have your session recorded during your session? And we would take care of all of that. So would you like to be in person? And as you're in person, would you like to be in one of our hybrid rooms? Meaning we will take care of the recording. We will take care of your screencasting. All you have to do is focus on your face-to-face. But we'd have a volunteer in there, and then you can ask your volunteer, hey, if I get any questions from the virtual audience, please let me know. Or if I get any questions from the virtual audience, ask me at the end and we'll answer them for them. Or sometimes we have some really good virtual, a lot of times, most of the time, we have some really good volunteers who will be in that room that may be able to answer the questions based upon listening to you speak. They may be able to answer those attendees in there. So you kind of have like a partner in that room. So that's another option, right? If you're selected in person, would you like to do that as a hybrid? If you are not selected to present in person, would you still be willing to do a virtual session? And so this is kind of like another option. Like if you get sorry, you weren't selected to present in person, do you still want to have, but wait, there's more. Would you like to be part of the virtual? Okay. So that's your option here. Okay. So I wanted to go over that really good because sometimes these questions can be a little confusing. I wanted to make sure you understood what each one of these was about. And the same thing, the only difference is if selected to present virtually, would you like to pre-record, right? So this is like an all-encompassing, but I'm just going to leave it right there. All right. And so here is where you start entering your session details. And again, we've embedded the rubric here. We've embedded the rubric here so that you can, as you're typing, or hopefully copying and pasting, you are rereading the rubric on how it's being evaluated, right? So for title, to get a 5, the title is catchy, but accurately reflects the content of the session, right? So like if you did something like getting super fancy with stuff, it's catchy, but what stuff, right? So you want to have it to be catchy, eye-catching, but still, if they read it, they know what the session is about, okay? So session title, I'm just going to put this one just so when we go through these, we know that this is my fake session submission. I'm going to title it fake session submission. There we go. So next, session description right here. And I want to go over this because there might be another question down the line that is very similar to this. And I don't want things to be redundant for you, right? So your session description, this is just giving a clear description of the presentation and the desired outcomes. Okay. So this clearly tells you what's going to be covered, what activities are going to be conducted, and what the attendees will take away from this session. Okay. It's going to be clear to the reader what grade levels. So this is for, all grade levels, or this is for primary grade levels. Make sure we're saying, who is this for? And then finally, down here, did the presenter select the appropriate topic for this presentation? Did the session grab the appropriate grade levels? For example, if you said this is good for everybody, but your description is only about K2 or K3, maybe you should go back and change it from everybody to that K2 or K3, right? So session description, fun stuff that you don't want to type that. Okay. But you want to make sure it's there. And this is where I'm talking about the main focus area, right? So we have equity and access, information technology, that's IT, innovator showcase, something that you created that's pretty awesome, that came from you, leadership administration, media and information literacy, online or blended learning, professional development, social emotional learning, STEM, STEAM maker, or talking pedagogy. And I'll tell you, the two most common areas that people select are innovator showcase. Hey, I'm an innovator and I'm going to showcase something. or talking pedagogy. This is a pedagogical shift because I'm using it in a different way. These are the two most common selected. That means it becomes competitive for those focus areas, right? So if you're doing more on, this is something I'm doing that's innovating, but it's really on how to, find media or, make sure that you're not having false information, misleading information, right? So, or this is something that's really cool I do in my science classroom. So it's changing my pedagogical approach to science, but it's really a STEAM activity, right? So you would probably want to select STEAM, right? And so that's how you really want to choose your focus. Hone it in, okay? Right there. So I'm gonna do STEM right here, really quick. What's your secondary focus? This is where you can then, okay, let me break it down a little bit more. So it's gonna be STEM, but then I'm gonna be talking pedagogy, how it can be used in any classroom, right? But since your focus area is STEM, that kind of gives you a better opportunity to be selected. Okay, so I just wanted to showcase for that you. And then here's the main grading unit right here, right? The main grading unit, all grade levels, that is the most common selected. So again, for that grading area, that grade level, that becomes very competitive when it comes to getting selected. If you are a kindergarten teacher, select pre-K because that's going to be your focus, right? Even if everybody can use this, choose that pre-K, right? If you are a secondary teacher, choose that 9-12. Even if, or if you're an intermediate school teacher, choose that 6-8. Even if it can be used in high school, but you're going to give examples and focus on 6-8, choose that. Because again, we try and create a session schedule that has a really wide variety to meet the needs of every educator who's coming. So we may not have a lot of just intermediate sessions, so we'll be looking for those. So that's going to give you, I don't want to say it's an automatic in, but it's going to be less competitive than choosing, oh, this is good for everybody, because most people choose that. All right. As we go through. So I'm going to go intermediate. Boom, right there. Right. And then you can go secondary. You know what? But it's also good for high school. Right. But the main is what is going to be focused on when we're doing these things. So just try and do it that way. Again, my recommendation, the main focus is on what you are focusing on, right? It's pretty self-explanatory. And then the grade level, again, I would, even though it's good for all grade levels, if you're going to show examples from your grade level that you're teaching, choose that grade level and then choose secondary, right? Like if then it's good for more, then choose that. So that's just my big recommendation. And then curricular areas. Again, you can choose two options. I'll tell you, the most common one selected is apps, tools, and software, right? I'm going to be talking about Flipgrid. That's an app. I'm going to be talking about Edpuzzle. That's an app, right? That's one of the most common, right? So I'm just saying, if you choose that curricular or subject area, that is very competitive, right? So if you're going to be showing an app in science, boom, choose it. So make sure you're choosing those two areas to give you that skill. And then again, audience skill level, of course, most people are going to choose beginner. They are, right? You want to get as many people there, and you don't want to scare them off with intermediate or advanced, so you choose beginner. But if you are going to be doing some advanced things, or go to intermediate as well, right? So just a couple tips, right, on how to get selected. A session outline, right? This is just the sequence, right? Almost like, for the first 5 minutes, I'm going to talk about the topic. And then the next 10 minutes, I'm going to talk about how I've used this in my classroom. And then for the next 5 minutes, we're going to share with each other. And then for the next, so it's just sequential. What is going to happen in your session in sequence? What do you want? What's the flow going to look like? That's what the session outline is for, right? And then provide clear descriptions. So, okay, for my third step, for 5 minutes, I'm going to have the audience interact with each other. Well, how? Is it going to be face-to-face? Is it going to be through a poll? Is it going to be through an app you have where all their stuff goes up on the screen, like a Nearpod or a Pear Deck or a word cloud? How? So make sure that you're saying, I'm going to have them do this by the means of this, right? So that's what, make sure it's clear all the way through. And I'm just going to put dots here, right? And then this one, this part, describe how this session is designed to help adult learning. Basically, you know, you're going to give examples. You're going to give examples of how students use this. But if the teacher who's listening wants to go back and train their other teachers, how does this help the adult learn how to use this with the students? What are you doing for the adult? Are you going to have their hands out? Are you modeling the lesson for them so where they get hands on? How are you helping the adults in the room learn this so they can take it back to their school and kind of do a train the trainer kind of situation? How are they going to go back and train the rest of their staff how to use this with their students? So that's what we're asking here about. Describe how you are going to support that adult learner. What are you giving them? What resources are you handing out? That kind of stuff. Now, objectives and takeaways, right? So, and again, this is where people are like, well, didn't I just describe this up here with my session description about the takeaways? This is a little bit deeper, right, in the takeaways. Just describe what the teachers will gain from this session in a clear and detailed way. By going through my session, the teachers will be learning this, and they will be able to go back and replicate it by how are they going to have these clear takeaways within your session? Ease of replicability, right? We don't want to have a session and you're like, look how easy it is. And then it goes back and it's super hard to implement. Make sure that we are letting the teachers know your journey in implementing this. What were your pain points? What were your failures leading up to your successes? We want to make sure that the teachers know to replicate this. It might get a little bit messy at the beginning, but it can be done. Okay. And then finally, is there any cost to implement this? Right? For example, you know, if you're using Nearpod, there's a free version of Nearpod and then there's a pay version of Nearpod. If what you're showing in the session requires a pay version of Nearpod, make sure you're saying the cost of implementing this is a premium Nearpod account, which is currently, and then put the price, right? So we need to know, we need to let our attendees know if you are showing a tool that's going to cost money. If you are utilizing hardware, that's going to cost money, right? If you're doing a session on AR, VR, and they have to then purchase a HoloLens to implement it, make sure you say, well, the cost of implementing this is you need 5 HoloLenses for your area, and these cost that, right? So make sure we're being upfront with those costs. Here is evidence. What evidence do you have that supports your session is going to be successful? How is it successful for you? Now, a lot of people take this to mean, oh, do I have to go and find research that supports research papers, peer-reviewed articles that support this? Not necessarily. You are in the throes of the research by showcasing how you've used this in your classroom, what you've seen with your students, and what takeaways your students have had. Right? That's the evidence. That's the research, right? What growth are you seeing from your students that this is working? What growth from, if you've trained other teachers to utilize what you're teaching about or what you're showcasing, from them, what are they saying on how successful it's been, right? So the personal research is what we can be looking for as well, right? So that is the big or. What experiences support the effectiveness of the techniques and strategies during this session? What have been your experiences with the teachers you have trained, or you as the teacher in the classroom seeing the success of this and being implemented in student growth, right? So that's what we're looking for. It doesn't necessarily have to mean in the article written by so-and-so and blah. That's not necessarily what we're talking about. Right? You are the research vessel. Your experiences are that research we want to hear about. For me, that's the most powerful. Okay. And then when the technique of the evidence, when this technique or strategy was used with learners, how did it promote learning? What growth, right? What pedagogical shift promoted this learning, right? Did you transfer the teaching from the front of the classroom and put the learning in the hands of the students? Is that what promoted the growth? Right? Having the students take control of their own learning, having the students be the creators of the content, right? That's the stuff that we're looking for, putting the learning in the hands of the students. And then this section is equity, like student-centered practices, right? Describe how the strategies are going to support an equitable, student-centered learning environment that promotes expression and contributions from the marginalized voices in your classroom. That means the students who are in the back who are like, I'm not a science student, right? How are you bringing them into the conversation to showcase, yes, you are a science student? Or some of our English language learners who maybe don't want to speak up during class because they still have, they still need to take time to think about the sentence before they speak it because they are an emerging English speaker. Maybe giving them an opportunity to type it all out so they have that time to think. Like, what are you doing to make the learning to be equitable for students in our classroom so that everybody has a voice? And students do have a voice, and I want to make that clear, but they showcase their voice in a manner that makes their voice feel as important as everybody else's, right? What are we doing to make that equitable shift into student-centered practices where the students have that empowerment to showcase their learning? So that's what we're talking about here. How does what you're showing empower our students? And then finally here, I want to make sure that we know what this means. Full disclosure. Is there a commercial aspect to this session? Right? I will tell you about 90% of our sessions are being put in by teachers who are showcasing something they've used in class and want to share it out with the rest of the teaching field. Perfect. But there's also some teachers who might have been contacted by some of their favorite apps and said, hey, if you present on this, maybe we'll pay your way, or maybe this, maybe that, right? Just make sure that you're showcasing our app the most. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a commercial session, but is it being turned into a commercial session because of that little push, right? That's a question you have to ask yourself. If it's just you showcasing your love of an app because you love using the app and it's beneficial to your kids, then no, that is not a commercial session. But if you are saying, if you're presenting on a particular app and then at the end of your session, a representative from that app comes in and talks about how they can that becomes a commercial session. So ask yourself that. Majority of you are going to select no. And then here, and again, selecting yes in either of these does not preclude you from being selected. It's just allowing us to identify, okay, this might be a commercial session. We have to make sure we denote that in the description so people know, hey, you might be going into something that's commercial, right? We just want to make sure our attendees don't walk and go, hey, they were just trying to sell me something the whole time, right? So by selecting yes on either of these doesn't mean your session's going to get removed. Or not be considered. Okay, please know that. So here, are you being compensated for doing this presentation? Again, like I said before, like if you're doing a presentation on an app and you know that this company, if you fill out a form, they'll maybe give you like a reimbursement for your travel because you're presenting on their app. That is compensation for doing that presentation. So you need to make sure you're saying, yes, I am being compensated. Right? Because that would be the case. If you're doing this presentation and there's a form, again, another app, there's a form you fill out because you might be an ambassador for that particular app. There's a lot of teachers that are ambassadors. That's not commercial. That's not being compensated. But if you go and they think, hey, I'm presenting on this app, your app, could you send me some swag so I can hand out? That's also not being compensated, right? You're giving out some free stuff. That's not being compensated. So just know that by selecting yes, like, hey, you know what? I'm a teacher. I'm paying for this myself. If they're going to give me some money to help pay my travel, what's so wrong with that? Nothing. but just make sure you're saying, yeah, because you are kind of being compensated. So that's not going to take you off of the consideration list, right? But we just have to be known that this is. So I'm going to put no for this as well. And then some sessions are going to be presented simultaneously to an audience in the Zoom in a virtual Zoom audience. So I grant CUE permission to record the video and the audio of my session so it can be shared to the virtual platform. And then I hereby certify that the content I'm submitting is my original work and doesn't violate copyright law, and will properly cite and credit when necessary. Again, as educators, we love to learn and share, but if you go into a session like, oh, I love this session, and they give you access to their slide deck, we would love you not to just make a copy of another presenter's slide deck, change your name, and they go, I can present on this, right? If you've reached out to that original presenter and said, hey, I'd love to present your session at this conference, can I do it? If you've received permission, that's another story, but we would love for you to make sure that your work, your presentation is original. And if it's not, you give the correct citing and you've asked the correct permissions. Simple as that, right? We're all about sharing. We're all about kindness. So just make sure that we're giving that back. So I'm going to hit save and continue right here. And again, remember, that's why doing all of this on this outline first might be best, because then you can just copy and paste into those individual sections, right? So I'm going to hit save and continue. You're not done yet. You're not done yet. So it says, we want you to review this. And here's another thing. Only the submitting author of the session will be given a complimentary registration if asked to speak at Spring CUE. That means if you have a co-speaker, they will not be given free conference registration. Only the submitting author. That means if you are submitting on behalf of somebody else, you're going to be the one giving free registration, not on the behalf of somebody else. So make sure the other person is submitting this, okay? Whoever is getting the free registration needs to be the one submitting the session with their name and their email attached. Okay, so we get questions. Oh, does my co-speaker get free reg? Co-speakers do not get free registration. We give every submitter who is selected to speak at Spring CUE a free complimentary registration. We cannot extend that to co-speakers, because what if you had 4 co-speakers, right? Where do we limit that? So it is just the submitting speaker. But if you want to do a nicety, what you can do is, well, the registration is this amount of money. If we just split it, then I'm paying half and you're paying half. That sounds great. Or the co-speaker can sign up as a volunteer. Volunteers for, I believe it's either 5 or 6 hours of volunteer work, get their conference registration fee paid for as well. And so if the co-speaker can't afford it, but they still want to go, they can then go in and be a volunteer, or they can apply to be a session reader. Session readers get their conference registration fee waived as well. So there's a lot of different ends on being able to do that, but just by putting your name in as a co-speaker, that will not get you free registration. And in fact, notice there is no section on the submission process to even put a co-speaker. It says co-speakers can be added to the session description after the session has been scheduled. Okay. So you don't even put a co-speaker in until after it's been accepted. Okay, so I really want you to notice that. And so as you go down here, there's my Lego guy. That would be your picture. And just make sure everything you put in here is what you'd want. Then you hit submit. And look, congratulations. You have successfully completed your submission. Here's your confirmation number. You will be emailed that your session has been successfully submitted. Save that email, right? In case anything goes wrong. But watch this. If I now select my submissions, you can see it. You can go back in and edit it. You can add more things to it all the way up until November 14th at 11:59. Okay. you can put in up to 3 sessions. If you put in more than 3 session submissions, we will only have the first 3 you submitted in contention to be selected. So we will only accept the first 3 session submissions. So if you submitted 4, then what I would do is find the one you don't want to do the most, pick your top 3, and then withdraw the 4th. Okay? That would be my recommendation, but we will only consider 3 of your session submissions to be submitted for CUE. But then you're done. And so that's how you do the session submission process. Now, a lot of people are like, well, that's a long process. Well, to be able to present at a caliber conference like CUE, we have to make sure that we have our presenters putting in the time and the effort to put those presentations in, right? We want you to put your best foot forward. It also helps us because in the past, sessions were scored out of 5, right? And so it really wasn't fair if like, maybe you didn't hit 1 or 2 questions and you got a 3 and you didn't get selected because of that. Now we have so many different segments that you might get a lower score on one section, but higher scores on the others would still give you a better chance of being selected. So the way that it's set up gives you a better chance of being selected rather than the previous way, even though the previous way was much quicker, right? This way gives you a better opportunity because of all the different facets that are being scored. And again, it's going to be scored by 2 or 3 of our session readers, and the scores will be averaged together to give you that score. And then that is how we will start selecting the sessions and rubricing them and selecting them. And then at that point, you will be contacted and let you know whether your session was selected or not. And again, that's why if you don't mind doing a virtual, then select I could be virtual or face to face, and that's why that section of if I'm not selected as face to face, would you still be considered? Would you still like to consider doing virtual? That's the question, because you still might, you know what, I do still want to be a part of CUE even though I can't go there. So if you have any questions, please let us know. You can find me on the Twitters at JoeMarquez70, or you can shoot me an email at jmarquez@CUE.org. Ask any questions that you'd like. But again, I really, really, really want to reiterate one more time that to submit your session, you go to QLearns.org/spring submit. I would type it in all lowercase. That is going to guarantee you that you're going to get in, and then submit. Do not wait to the last minute. Again, the last minute would be November 14th at 11:59. You have 2 weekends to get these in, and you don't have to finish it all at once. Notice there's lots of save points along the way. So you can do half of it one day, half of it another. Again, I highly recommend that you utilize the session submission offline worksheet that's available on that page as well, so that you can do all of this work on a Google Doc and then just copy and paste it on over to your session submission. But we can't wait to read these submissions. We're getting super excited. We have so many submissions coming in right now, but we want you to submit yours right now as well. So please join the fun. Join us at Spring CUE. Again, Spring CUE is happening in Palm Springs, California at the Palm Springs Center, March 16th to 8th, 2023. The session submissions, this call for submissions ends November 14th at 11:59 p.m. So do not miss out on that window. So I hope you have a fantastic Friday and have a phenomenal weekend. So have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful day.